What you know, Alibuyers, welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. Good to have you here. It's Wednesday, December 10th. We are going to go through the last few witnesses before the Commonwealth rested. I think the very last witness, a close friend of Anna's down there in D.C., was maybe one of the best witnesses we've had for the Commonwealth. She really gave a lot of insight into Anna's state of mind there around the last time she saw her. But back on the stand after the morning break was still Jim Mutlew, a personal friend of Anna and Brian's that spent New Year's Eve at their house. And he was still on cross. On New Year's Eve, you were there for about 5 hours? Yes. And none of you were drunk? No. During the night, there was food and conversations about the future. Anna was receiving and sending text messages, and at some point she said, "Let's send a picture to Will." He's not sure about that. Brian told you he lost his phone and he felt free because of that? Yes. On January 4th, you talked to Brian over the phone and he told you he hadn't spoke to Anna in several days and she was missing and you were in shock? Yes. By the way, January 4th, it was the day that her coworkers called the police in Massachusetts and also the day Brian filed the missing person report. You asked Brian if he and Anna had an argument and he said no. Did it look like we had an argument? You were there. The witness said it just didn't make sense to him, and it also did not make sense she would just leave. You said they were in love, and Jim said they seemed happy that night, but people are complex. You knew Brian and Anna as a married couple for 3 years, and you spent time with them. He said he hadn't seen Brian and Anna physically in months before New Year's Eve. The defense asks if he spent time with each of them one-on-one. Yes. You said New Year's Eve was jovial. Everyone was hopeful about the new year. And Jim says, "I'm not sure if I said hopeful about the new year." They bring up you signed the champagne box. And Jim says, "I don't know what was in their hearts." The mood was good that night. The defense says, "You saw them talking and laughing with each other?" He said, "Yes." The defense says, "Brian put a Turkish flair on the food specifically for you?" "Yes." When Brian told you he hadn't spoke to Anna in 3 days, it didn't make sense because when you left New Year's Day, it was a joyful, happy occasion. Jim says he didn't understand how she could be missing and how nobody knew about it for 3 days. I didn't understand, and his tone of voice was not panicked. They ask again, was the mood joyful and happy when you left? Yes. On redirect, when you say people are complex, are you referring to your conversation with Anna a couple of days prior? You're referring to her saying they were having marital problems? He says yes, and there was an objection and a move to strike that statement. The judge strikes the marital problem statement, but says he could discuss what he recalls her saying. As far as what Anna was saying, what is it you heard in that conversation that made you say people are complex? He said Anna said there were cracks in the relationship, there was an objection, a move to strike, and they went to sidebar. When they came back, to the best of your recollection, in the December 29th conversation, what did Anna say to you that led you to say people are complex? He said the fact that Anna gave him information, which he can't recall the exact words, but she was having problems in her relationship with Brian. Again, the defense objects, moves to strike, and the judge asked the witness what she said. He doesn't remember the exact words. And that was it for Jim. I thought he was a very credible witness. He showed genuine emotion, and you could tell that this loss has affected him very deeply. The next witness, Marlene Rumdahali. She is one of Brian's probation officers. She is a senior federal probation officer in the District of Massachusetts. She's known Brian since November of 2021, and she would see him once every 60 days, either at his house or her office. Between December 2022 and January 2023, he was subject to a number of conditions like home confinement, which limited his movements in the community. He was authorized to leave with a pre-scheduled pass, so he would have to ask permission. And when he would ask for a schedule, it would need to be approved by her. However, he was allowed to go out for essential necessities, such as education, religion, any kind of treatment, to the doctor, attorney, grocery shopping, banking, and things with his kids and his mom. On Thursdays, he would submit schedules to her through email for what necessities he had coming up the next week. And he also did not have permission to leave the state. she's asked, is a restaurant considered a necessity? And she says no. If he needed to deviate from the schedule, he would submit a new schedule request through email to her, and he wasn't allowed to go anywhere without clearing it through her first. So he had a set recurring schedule for Monday through Friday to drop his kids off between 8 and 10:30 a.m. and then to pick them up between 3:45 and 6:15. On January 1st, New Year's Day, he asked for leave to take his mother home from 3 to 9 p.m. He said she was post-surgery and he was taking her back to her residence. He did not ask for permission to go to a restaurant. Now remember, Anna had told someone that they had reservations to go out to eat later that day, and I think that's what they're referring to here. January 2nd, he had permission to pick up and drop off the kids, but she received information about an unauthorized leave that day at 3:53 p.m. She reached out to Brian to ask about that leave, and he said he was going to pick up his kids per usual, but school was on holiday and not in session, but the witness was not notified of that. January 3rd, pick up and drop off the kids, and a recurring schedule to get his trash out from 7:50 p.m. to 8:15, and she says it wasn't on his property. January 4th, drop off the kids, and he had a recurring schedule on Wednesdays between 11 and 1:30 p.m. for grocery shopping. January 5th, Brian let her know he had contact with law enforcement, which is required, and he also let her know Anna was missing. For January 5th, the week prior, he had requested to leave between 10:15 to 1:30 to help his mom with errands, but this was not a recurring leave. Friday, January 6th, she saw Brian in person. He submitted a schedule for January 11th for a haircut between 1:30 and 3:15 p.m., and then a pass for the 12th to meet with his attorney from 10:30 to 3:15. On cross, Brian asked to be able to take his mom January 1st the week prior, and to go to a restaurant would need court approval. She says probation doesn't have the authority to approve non-essential necessities. It's documentation, so it would need to be filed with the court. The defense says there's always the chance it wouldn't be allowed. So if he wanted to take Anna out on New Year's Day, there is a chance it would not be approved, and she says yes. The next witness, Tony Macrina from Home Depot. He's bringing in surveillance and receipts from the store in Rockland. The date for that is January 2nd at 4:56 p.m. That's the day the kids had no school, but he still went out. They played that video for the jury. He's walking in, and in another clip, he's checking out. They bring in the receipt for the purchase. He checked out at 5:01 p.m. and bought a lot of stuff. 2-pack of plastic sheets, Tyvek suit, looks like heavy-duty sponges, several buckets with lids, a broom, utility knife, extra large latex gloves, goggles, a mask, a hatchet, baking soda, and a mop with a bucket. There were other things, but they were going too fast for me to grab it. The total for that purchase was $453.54. He paid $455 cash. The next witness, Kylori, I'm not going to attempt her last name because I will butcher it, but she is a property manager at Chatham West Apartments in Brockton, Massachusetts. That complex back in 2023 had 25 exterior cameras and 21 dumpsters, which are open to the public. She gave surveillance to law enforcement, and they play that. On January 3rd at 5:11, we see Brian pull in, goes to the dumpster, back to his car, backs up and leaves. That video is really choppy, and she said there is a lag on their video sometimes. So after lunch, the next witness was Christopher Bernasconi. He works at TJMaxx in Norwell. They bring in a video of Brian in the store January 4th at 9:44 a.m. This was the day Anna was reported missing. He got there at 9:44 a.m. and he checked out at 9:53 a.m. with a total of $133.94. Looks like he mostly bought men's clothing. And the last witness for the Commonwealth, Alyssa Kirby. Her and Anna were introduced through her brother Peter as well as her sister-in-law. As far as her relationship with Anna, they became close friends very quickly. She said they called themselves new best friends and they spent a lot of time together. And they clicked like sisters. They met shortly after Anna moved to DC, and they lived about a 5-minute walk around the corner from each other. They tried to see each other once a week, but not always, and they communicated about the same, especially when Anna would come back in town from Massachusetts. And she knew of Will Fasto. Anna told her that he sold her the house and talked about her interest in him. She was hearing a lot about Will as a person. She did tell the witness she was interested in him and had a crush, but it was more talk about their connection and what she wanted to have happen with him. She told her she was open with Brian about her crush on Will, and he was very aware of it. Christmas Day 2022. Brian called her in the early afternoon, which was rare, and said he was looking for Anna because he hadn't heard from her. She offered to go to Anna's to check on her, but he messaged her back and said he got in touch with her. She said his demeanor was worried or nervous. She also spoke to Anna on Christmas Day that afternoon as Anna was driving back to Massachusetts. She said Anna was very upset and angry that Brian would have called her. She said she had talked to him about an hour or an hour and a half before. Alyssa and Anna spoke for about 20 minutes, and they planned to see each other right before New Year's to catch up. So they met up on December 29th and went to a few places. They started at a bar near where they lived and later went to a karaoke dancing bar, and they stayed for about 6 hours. Anna's demeanor was just upset, and she was breaking down because things had been really hard, and she had hit a breaking point, so they talked about a lot of things. She said normally Anna was a very strong person, so this was not like her. And Alyssa starts to cry recounting this. She said Anna was upset about hers and Brian's relationship and being far away from the kids. She was also upset finding out the federal case was delayed by Brian, and really she just wanted to be with her kids. And she said the marriage between her and Brian had been strained for a while. Anna wanted Brian to take responsibility for their family to be back together. And at that point, responsibility was potentially taking jail time, but Anna said she would be waiting for him so they could all be together. Anna thought maybe Brian could spend a year behind bars. And Anna was contemplating if she could legally take her kids to DC. And also being away from Brian was hard for her. She said everything was set up in her name in DC, as well as the bills, and she was just trying to figure out how to get the kids with her in DC. Anna said that her and Brian had not been intimate in over a year because he had been depressed, and the strain of the case took a toll on his mental health and their marriage, and her energy was being really drained. Brian was calling her several times a day, and she was just physically and emotionally exhausted, traveling back and forth from DC to Boston and vice versa. Anna felt she had to be the strong one, but it was draining for her. They show a photo of her and Anna from when they went out on December 29th, and immediately Alyssa begins to cry. She never saw Anna again after that night. Anna left the next day for Massachusetts, that would have been December 30th, and was planning to come back to DC January 3rd or 4th. They last communicated just after midnight on New Year's. They bring in text messages from Brian to Alyssa from January 3rd. It says, "Hello, I know we did this a week ago, but have you heard from Anna?" Alyssa responded, apologizing for the delay, saying she was asleep and very sick with the flu. She told Brian she texted Anna on New Year's Day, but hasn't heard from her since. She asked, is she working today because she's usually running around super busy with work. Brian responded, "You're right. I'll let you know when she calls." And he tells her to feel better soon. The next morning, she texted Brian, "Did you ever hear back?" And Brian said, "No, they're looking for her at work now." She got scared. Something was wrong. She called her brother to see if he had heard from her. She spoke with Brian either later that day or the next day, and there were a few calls. There was one with Brian and his mom, and she said his mom was combative. There was an objection that ended up in the sidebar. When they get back, they ask about December 29th. Did Anna ever tell you how Brian reacted when his mom said a psychic said Anna was having an affair? The witness said Brian thought it was crazy. They show her a photo of Anna's jacket. It's a photo of Anna sitting in a plane. They had her face blurred out, but that was the end of direct. On cross, you guys would text and talk during the week, and her work schedule was demanding. Was it uncommon for her to work until 7 or 8 at night? And the witness says no. She would go to Boston on Thursdays and Fridays and come back on Monday. For the Christmas Day call, you said Brian sounded nervous and worried, and this was around noontime. Yes. You spoke to Anna Christmas Day and she was angry. Brian called you. The witness said yes. She felt it hadn't been that long since her and Brian had spoke, and she was upset that he bothered her on a holiday and worried her. As far as William Fastow, she told you she had a crush on him, and she told Brian as well. They had an open and honest relationship. The witness said yes, they were open in their relationship, and he was not jealous. Did she say she wished Brian was a little more jealous? And she says, I think in a way a wife would want her husband to be a little more protective. She did not know Anna and Will were in a romantic relationship, but they talked a lot about Will, but not about anything actually happening. They asked, was her sleep schedule different? Going to bed early, sleeping in late, and the witness doesn't know. Did she cancel plans with you on December 20th because she wasn't feeling good? Yes. Did Anna say she told Brian to resolve this, and even if it means jail time, we'll be here for you when you get out? She said Anna didn't really say this. It was a conversation about him taking responsibility, which could mean jail time because the sentencing had not happened. She wanted Brian to take care of their family that way and just be done with it. They had been living apart, and she wasn't sure what would happen. On redirect, did she want her family together? There is an objection, and the judge allows it. So they ask, on December 29th, what did she tell you if she wanted her family together? The witness said she wanted her family together, but was exhausted and not sure what to do. She's asked, what did she say about if she loved Brian? The witness said she said he would often not tell her he loved her, but would always ask how much in love she was with him. And she said this time she said not as much because of everything that had happened and that she was falling out of love with Brian. On December 29th, how did she physically appear to you? The witness says tired. Commonwealth, and did you go out to karaoke? And did she go dancing? And the witness says yes, karaoke and dancing. So after this, the Commonwealth rested and the defense filed a motion of a required finding of not guilty, but that was denied. The judge said the Commonwealth has showed enough evidence for the case to be deliberated by the jury. So tomorrow, 9 a.m., come watch live with us. As you guys know, Brian's attorney indicated in opening statements, you will hear from Brian. So could tomorrow be the day? We will see. I'm so here for it because, y'all, I've never watched a trial when the defendant takes the stand that it is anything other than an absolute dumpster fire, hot mess express. And I expect this will go about the same. Cross-exam, y'all, gonna be lit. All right, that's it for today. Hope you guys have a good rest of your evening. We will see you soon.